Hello there, I am your host Jay, and welcome back to the Rup Effect. Today, we're going to be discussing the series Obi Wan Kenobi from Disney. There's a total of 6 episodes, and I want to dive right into it and tell you guys my thoughts, and did they do good? I'll give you my final verdict. I'll go and scale it to 1 through 10. 10 being an amazing series, and 1 being it was the worst thing I've ever watched. Don't waste your time. Let's dive right into what I thought of Obi Wan Kenobi. Obi Wan Kenobi starts 10 years after the fall of the Jedi and the rise of the Empire, with Anakin seduced to the dark side for trying to save the people that he loved, to only kill everyone he cared about and a few younglings on the way. We get to see a broken Obi Wan Kenobi working at some sort of meat factory. You learn he is having PTSD from his past and lost all connections with the Force. I enjoy this direction with the character. It would make complete sense that he is a broken man and a hopeless Jedi. We also learned he kept his word by watching over young Luke Skywalker, and by this, Disney's staying within canon. Good for them, this show might actually pull it off. Let me start off right away. Moses Ingram did a fine job playing Reva, and what was written and given to her, all the personal attacks she received, is disgusting and disappointing in my eyes. These people aren't true fans of Star Wars. Disney once again tries to forcefully invest a new character in the lore and timeline during a memorable character's return that fans love and want to indulge in, but instead we get Reva, a youngling that survived Order 66 and the attack on the Jedi Temple, and she saw firsthand what Anakin Skywalker has become. She only survived because she was weak and hid beneath her friends' cold, dead bodies, as Anakin marches on through the temple. As she grew, so did her anger towards Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Reva's character arc just didn't work for me. At first, I can admit I actually had some hope for her character, but right off the bat she came off annoying and disobedient, which is purposely trying to make you not like her. But her ruthlessness also kept me engaged, especially when she went hacking townfolk's arms off and trying to kill surviving Jedi on the spot. I was pretty interested and somewhat invested in her. I've always wanted a story about a Dark Force user, even if it wasn't an Inquisitor. It was at least something. But unfortunately, we get a redemption character arc with Reva, and it was a pretty obvious one too when watching the show. She might have been more interesting if the character was kept more mysterious, or at least just pure evil. Unfortunately, Disney didn't go this route. Now I have to say, within Kenobi and all of their flashbacks we got to see were pretty amazing, and it just makes me realize how much I like the prequels. Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen, watching them bring back the prequel lightsaber duels and the flash and the jazz those battles just had me ecstatic. We also got a young Leia story arc that I wouldn't have thought about in a million years. At first I was like, how is this possible? It's gonna break canon. But part 6 does a pretty good job clearing everything up and making everything tie in nicely. The young actress that played young Leia, Vivian Leigh Blair, did a wonderful job. In my eyes, she nailed it. What I would believe what a young Leia would be. I also want to mention Leia's character arc brought us to Alderaan and the House of Organa. That was surprisingly beautiful, and it felt very Disney-like, more than Star Wars, but it actually worked for me. I enjoyed that little moment. I also enjoyed her droid, Lola. I feel like Disney does a good job finding new little droids to merchandise. Unfortunately, the writing went downhill a little after that wonderful moment with a couple of mercenaries chasing Leia in the woods, and it was just really bad directing, and just another historical bad chase scene for Star Wars. Just how the mercenaries would just run into the trees, trip over branches, looked out of sequence, and it took me out of the whole episode. I really did enjoy the new planets we were able to look at during Kenobi. We were able to see Daiyu, a cyberpunk themed world. We got a cool Breaking Bad scene during our stay at Daiyu. Also, if you didn't know, the drug dealer that Obi-Wan bumped into was Ewan McGregor's daughter. We also visit Mapuzo, I hope that's how it's pronounced, but it felt very classic Star Wars to me. There was a lot of Imperial soldiers based there. We also get to see a quick vision of Anakin Skywalker in his old robe again, which was awesome and brought back so many good memories. We get a glimpse of a restored Mustafar, a hell-like planet. It looked horrible in The Rise of the Skywalker, by the way, so I was really happy they fixed that up. We get to see a lot of planets, much more than what I can remember on top of my head. It was finally really nice to see some world building around Star Wars again. I felt like Disney and the sequels completely lacked those fundamentals within Star Wars story. So it was nice to see that in Kenobi. Finally, we get to see a true powerful young Darth Vader, and it was voiced by James Earl Jones. But supposedly, I think it's just rumored, but James Earl Jones as Darth Vader is all computer generated. They keep his voice fresh and sounding young, but no one can truly say this is what they did. Hopefully we get some bonus features and behind the scenes on Kenobi. I loved how Darth Vader was portrayed in this series. Just so brutal and ruthless, force choking people out of their homes, breaking people's necks instantly, and torturing a townfolk by choking him and sliding him across the sand. It was so epic, and I enjoyed every minute of it. We finally get to see Obi-Wan fight Darth Vader. It's been a long time coming, and just completely kicks Obi-Wan's ass. Vader takes Obi-Wan and tries to show him how it felt to be burnt to a crisp. Unfortunately, right when Vader was done toying with Obi-Wan and extinguishes the flames, Tala the spy reunites the flames, and now all of a sudden, Vader is hopeless and can't find a way to Obi-Wan. This made no sense to me, like jump over or walk around. The area was big enough, the flames probably didn't reach side to side. The writing sometimes just had me going and questioning why I was watching the show. So jumping forward to episode 4, where we get the slap heard around the galaxy and Reva being a really bad babysitter. Probably one of the worst episodes. Actually, it is the worst episode of Kenobi. First, it was nice to see Obi-Wan reconnecting with the Force, but unfortunately, it was definitely an unforgettable episode. This is where Reva's character really went downhill for me. She has all these powers, one of them being a mind-reading power using the Force, but instead she's yelling and threatening a 10-year-old to tell her what she's thinking. Like, Reva, use your damn mind-reading powers, duh. Writing here makes no sense. Then you have Tala that does the most ridiculous slap on a stormtrooper I've seen ever. Like, ever. It was historically bad. Like, they couldn't just have her do something like a Mortal Kombat character would do and drop down to the floor and, trip them up by doing like a leg spin or something. What's going on here? You would also think the stormtrooper would sustain a damn slap to the face. Instead, he falls backwards, gets all dazed and slowed, gives Tala time to grab a weapon and shoot him to death. Come on, Disney, it's just a freaking joke at this point. So far, this has just been a complete roller coaster ride. I love it, and then there's times I'm just utterly confused and chuckling over how stupid something is. Luckily, after the lackluster episode of Part 4, we get a better episode within Part 5 that did a pretty well job with all the flashbacks that brought back so many good memories. And then also Darth Vader literally showing his true powers of catching a transport ship in mid-flight with the Force was completely epic and taken out of the Force Unleashed. But it was so badass to see Darth Vader stop the ship midair and then throw it into the ground and start ripping it apart. And of course, until Disney fucks it up by having a ship that's right behind the ship that he catches, and it's really just a decoy ship that it gave the other ship just time to go, turn, and then point where it was gonna fly the hell out of there. Horrible writing. And it could have just been better scripted, but instead we get a scene that contradicts himself of being such a badass, he had time to grab that ship. It makes no sense. Stared at it. They just couldn't come up with a more believable outcome with that scene. It's just so disappointing. Back on a high note, Darth Vader and Reva's fight was pretty cool. I liked how Vader never had to take out his own lightsaber to defeat Reva. And Reva's saber was also pretty interesting. It was a double-bladed saber that also disconnected in the center to make it a two-handed wielded weapon. And at the end of the fight, when Vader was dual wielding the lightsabers, I thought it was the end of Reva and he was going to Count Dooku her ass, but instead she just gets impaled with her own lightsaber and then somehow she survived. And we also learned that the Grand Inquisitor that Reva also stabbed in the gut was still alive. Like, Disney, do you not understand how lightsabers work? Like, how the hell does the Grand Inquisitor and Reva survive a lightsaber to the chest, but Qui-Gon Jinn couldn't survive during Darth Maul? It makes no damn sense! To me, this is just bad writing, but also it saves canon with the Grand Inquisitor, so like I said, very up and down series so far. Part 6 of Kenobi really starts to connect everything together, and I feel like for me, it saved the series from really low score. We finally get the conclusion of Obi-Wan and Anakin Skywalker, where Obi-Wan finally realizes Anakin is truly forever gone. We get treated with a really nice epic battle with Kenobi and Darth Vader, and we finally see Reva take a righteous path. So the opening sequence of part 6, we learn right away Reva's still alive and doing pretty well for a lightsaber going through her chest. She found that hologram message about Luke, which led her back to Tatooine, and now is looking for Owen. We get a pretty nice treat to seeing Uncle Owen's homestead again. It looks exactly like in A New Hope. Vader chasing the convoy ship with Kenobi and Leia on board, it makes no sense. They can't catch them or shoot them down. And then Vader says a line I just don't understand. Vader would never say, "Increase firepower!" More like, send out the TIE fighters like they used to. Disney forgets about space combat and how Imperial Star Destroyers have TIE fighters on them. Man, oh man. Anyway, it does get better, I promise, it does. So Obi-Wan Kenobi knows his old friend is only after him, so he decides to split off with the group and go to a new unnamed planet where he finally faces Darth Vader and his haunting past. The planet was really cool. I felt like it was a great place to settle the score between them two. You knew right away when Obi did his famous stance, he was going to kick some ass. The way Obi-Wan fights in this duel was so mesmerizing to watch, how he could throw a lightsaber behind him swiftly and block Vader's incoming attacks, and Darth Vader showing his brute power, breaking the ground into two, eventually making the ground unstable and collapsing around Obi-Wan and trapping him into the rubble. I was on the edge of my seat the whole fight, but unfortunately we got taken away from that epic moment and we keep going back to Reva. We also learn Reva is the reason why Owen has a limp in his leg when we first saw him in A New Hope. After that little scene of Reva and Owen and learning about his leg, we finally go back to Obi-Wan in the rubble and thinking about everyone he cares about and how he needs to protect them. So he uses the Force like I've never seen before and blasts through the rubble. And then he becomes a complete badass. And it was such an awesome scene where he starts using the rubble against Vader, and it looked like it was right out of Dragon Ball Z. It was just an epic moment for Obi-Wan. Eventually having Obi-Wan dwindle down Vader's energy and slice open his helmet, revealing Anakin Skywalker for one more time. It was his own self that destroyed and killed Anakin, which is perfect. It harmonizes perfectly with A New Hope when Ben tells Luke, Darth Vader killed your father. Disney patched up the canon with Leia and Obi-Wan by having Kenobi tell Leia that they know each other. It has to be kept a secret and no one should know because it would keep them safe. I can buy into that dialogue and I enjoyed it. It's a good way to keep it canon. And then we get a surprise visit of an old mentor of Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon Jinn. I won't lie, I almost cried. I was in shock and awe. This alone gave 1 point to my score within the series. It was so awesome to finally see Qui-Gon Jinn since episode 1. It was a fantastic way to end the series. I have to give credit there. It brought me back so many good memories. Here's my final verdict for Obi Wan Kenobi, and I have to give it a 6 out of 10. I feel like a 6 out of 10 is a fair score with the direction Disney decided to go with Kenobi. How he had to rescue Leia and they actually do meet. Also introduce us to an underwhelming Reva that they are trying to market off of with a spin-off. Also, with some of the poor writing and directing, they had me questioning with the scenes like the Leia chase scenes, both of them, and some of Vader's badass moments turned into questioning of why didn't he just do this or that. But with all that said, Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen making a return and seeing some nice flashbacks of them two dueling each other again made me feel like a kid watching the prequels all over again. I also felt like they nailed a young Darth Vader. Everything I pretty much saw from him within the powers of the Force, I truly enjoyed. He was super brutal, ruthless, and just fun to watch. Besides some of the writing mistakes that Disney provided with his character, they pretty much nailed how powerful he truly is. This series really makes me want to see a season 2. I know Vader and Obi-Wan can't see each other again, but it doesn't mean they can't go down the path of more flashbacks with Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen. Also, they can go forward with Obi-Wan's training with Qui-Gon Jinn and Yoda. We'll have to wait and see though, but I'm really hoping they do a season 2. So that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. If you enjoyed my video, don't forget to hit that like button, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe. It helps me and my channel out a ton. Thank you everybody. See you later.